They'd already discovered a lot of things, could dumb down the public, could sedate the public. And H.G. Wells starts writing nonfiction books about how they could force drug the public, have one-child policies, invade every sovereign nation, bring down sovereign nations, and bring it under this international order that would remain somewhat secret, that they would break the world into 3 regions, that each region would have 10 subregions. That's exactly how many regions we have. There's 10 regions in the U.S., 10 then sub-regions to the North American Union, then 10 larger sub-regions to the Pan-American Union. Same thing with the EU. I mean, literally, when these guys start a plan, they stick to it. They follow through. And people say, well, how can it go generation after generation? The families, the power structures, the money, the interest, the corporations don't die. It's like a university. University heads come and go, but the organization grows. And people want to build the organization's prestige and power because in the seats they sit in, from the lowest to the highest, they get more money and power and prestige and control out of the institution's prestige, power, and control. This is how bureaucracies operate. But there was a wedding of pseudoscience and futuristic ideas, which again, these secret societies that are into science and technology, they worship science and technology, had always been into. And H.G. Wells and a few others came up with the idea of world population reductions, of non-lethal weapons. If a city didn't submit to the world government, they would come in with knockout gas and knock them all out. And then he would simultaneously put it in fiction books, in his science fiction, to revelation of the method, convince the public and sell them on it through his books and through the plays and then movies that were made out of it. And that's why you can pick up a 1937 New York Times, and it's got the U.S. with the 10 regions now, the 10 FEMA regions. This has been pushed. That's why when George Bush got up, Sr., and said New World Order in 91, everybody's mouth dropped open who knew any history. Because the Romans had talked about a New World Order, the British Empire had talked about it, Hitler had talked about it, Stalin had talked about it, Mao had talked about it just last year. The Pope said we need a New World Order. The Communist Chinese and the Russians said we're going to have a New World Order, but we're going to control it. When you hear New World Order, that means world empire. Then, as they did hundreds of years ago, selling people in Europe to revolt against the royalty, but not to supplant it and give the people power, but to just make themselves the new invisible royalty, which is even more effective. Today, with the Model UN at all the high schools, most of the private schools, they take the best and brightest. They go practice being UN delegates, UN ambassadors, secretary generals. They tell them, we're going to have world government to stop war. We're going to have world government to feed the hungry. We're going to have world government to stop global warming. We're all these great, and to fight abuse. And we're going to have world government to fight rogue America. Why, America's bad. It's out taking over and blowing up countries and invading. And if we have a world government, it can stop these rogues from doing this. Meanwhile, America's really controlled by the New World Order, and they're using us to go take over nations while at the same time blaming us for it, and then later demonizing the U.S. and bringing down our sovereignty. They're very sophisticated. This is a formula, and they've written about it. They've said it. It's out in the open. So that's why I wanted to play a 3-minute clip from Things to Come based on a book written decades before by H.G. Wells. Now, he wrote this almost 20 years before. Understand that. He wrote it right at the end of World War I. And in it, there is a second world war that devastates things so badly that they finally get their world government. But then they use doublespeak and say, but it isn't really a world government, but if you don't do what we say, we're going to come drop gas on you that knocks you all out. We're going to make you submit. We're going to have war, because we're against war, because you're a Timbot dictator, and we're running our operation out of Iraq. This was written in, 1919, and then made in a movie in 1937. This is so bizarre. It's like Albert Pike, the Supreme Grand Mason, in 1876, writing a book saying there's going to be 3 wars, the final one in the Middle East, bringing in world government. See, their League of Nations failed after World War I that the British engineered. That's now mainstream history. And so they're now saying, again, this is in a 1937 movie, we need another war to finally bring in the one world government and end all war. So they're always claiming it's to end war, it's to end hunger, it's to end famine, when they're the prime engines, the progenitors, the prime movers in all of this problem, reaction, solution. And then now, in this film, Things to Come, which is a propaganda film made prior to World War II, the movie shows the utopia vision after an apocalyptic war where the saviors of mankind come dressed as Nazi stormtroopers and stealth bombers. Looks just like a stealth bomber. Dropping peace gas and taking over the world from sovereign nations to bring a Freemasonry of science. This is a sick vision which is promoted by many groups today, hoping for their new world order. The Nazis tried this out, and many others have come to do the same. Ironically, the future seat of the sick new world order is in the movie is Basra, Iraq, where the white men of the New World Order developed their technology to subdue rogue nations. I have a link up on prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com to this clip that's on YouTube by the one of the best posters, I think, on there. We're really proud of his work. And that, or her work, we don't know who they are, wrote that blurb about it, and it's totally accurate. And that is The Gatekeeper Invasion. That's his name. He's exposing the gatekeepers. So that's up there on YouTube. We have a link to it. And I saw the film years ago and had forgotten about it. I've since ordered a copy. We're going to play more lengthy clips because in the film they dropped the gas to knock everybody out. Again, non-lethal weapons. I mean, think about this. Was written in 1919 in a movie in 1937. Their New World Order. Okay, everything this guy wrote about in his nonfiction books, they have implemented. All right, let's go ahead and go to Things to Come, 1937, based on an H.G. Wells film. Here it is, book.
So that's the sort of man your boss is. Not an unusual sight. Everywhere we find these little semi-military upstarts robbing and fighting. That's what endless warfare has led to. Brigandage. What else could happen? But we, who are all that are left of the old engineers and mechanics, have pledged ourselves to salvage the world. We have the airways, all that's left of them. We have the seas. And we have ideas in common. The brotherhood of efficiency. The Freemasonry of science. We're the last trustees of civilization when everything else has failed. Where do you come from? Who are you? Wings over the world. Well, you know you can't come into a country like this in this fashion. I'm here. Do you mind if I sit down? And now, for the fourth time, who are you? I tell you, wings over the world. That's nothing. What government do you under? Common sense. I belong to world communication. We just run ourselves. You run into trouble if you try and land here in wartime. What's the game? Order and trade. Trade, eh? Now look here, Mr. Aviator, let's see how we stand. Come down to actuality. The way you swagger, you don't seem to realize you're under arrest. You and your machines. You will find other planes looking for me if I happen to be delayed. We'll deal with them later. I even start a trading agency here, they like. I've no objection. The first thing we shall want is to get our planes in the air again. Right. A laudable ambition. But our new order has an objection to private airplanes. The impudent. I'm not talking about private airplanes. Our airplanes are public airplanes. This is an independent sovereign state at war. I know nothing about any old order. I'm the chief here, and I'm not taking any orders, old or new, from you. Suppose I walked into trouble. Yeah, you can take that as right.
Where do you come from?
I flew from our headquarters in Basra this morning. We have some hundreds of new type planes, and we're building more, fast. The factories are working again. We're gradually restoring order and trade in the whole Mediterranean area. We're scouting this region now to see how things are.
You found out. This is an independent sovereign state.